Thanks for having me. Like I say, Tim reached out to a couple, 3 months ago, Tim, maybe a little bit more. Asked if I do this sort of thing. Yes, we do. Rick got involved, and here we are. I do a lot of these, sometimes in conjunction with our public educators. They'll do that piece on what they're doing to prevent. I'm typically piggybacking that message with I talk about the building system, the services you have here as far as fire safety systems, how they protect you, how you shouldn't compromise them even by a door wedge. If I had $1 for every door wedge I stole as an inspector, I'd be long retired. So I typically ask the folks in condo associations when I talk, do you have any door wedges in the building? Nope, not a one. I always find one, and I don't go looking. I don't have to go too far, but we'll talk about that. My unit within Regina Fire deals specifically with prevention on the code compliance side and on the investigation side when things happen like we had behaviors in North Central last night or wherever they happen with our city. So I have 7 inspector investigators. Most of their work is code compliance, coming to buildings like this, the main building, not within your condos or your suites, the mercantile below, and we'll see if we have deficiencies, and we ask for the corrections or order the corrections. And it's all about preventing fires. If we can stop it, we're in good shape. We'll always be in business. Unfortunately, we'll always have work. So with that said, our investigation piece, it gets us to the root cause of what's causing unintentional or accidental fires. Some of the behaviors throughout our city that are criminal, I can't control that, but I certainly can assist in controlling unintentional fires. And 91% of all the fires we have within this city, province, country, and frankly North America are unintentional, and it just takes a moment. So we'll talk about all that. I encourage questions throughout. I like questions, lots of questions, be it about this building, where you live, or a past experience, or something that's bothering you about is this safe or not. I welcome those, so please reach out at any time rather than at the end. It's going to talk a bit about the building. You live in a state-of-the-art building. There's no question about it. It's built, this was probably built to the how old is this building? 3 years, so it's probably built under the 2010 building code. The 2015 is in play now, and soon the 2020. This building is built of the highest standards. Obviously, you know there's a sprinkler system, reactive fire alarm system. There's a lot of other things incorporated into this building that a lot of us don't know about or take for granted, such as the separation between your parking garage and your living space. Those are all 2-hour separations, and I'm not going to go deep into the code. Those self-closing doors between the parking garage and your elevator lobby, or however it's configured. The doors at the end of the corridors, your egress to stairwells, those are critically important doors to be. They're designed to close and latch. If they're on a hold open device, they're tied to the fire alarm system. We have more trouble throughout the city, be it a department store, be it a building like this, with people pinning open doors. It's the worst case scenario. If you do have a fire with those corridor doors pinned open or wedged open or not latching as designed, you'll have smoke development in that exit stairwell, and if the door above is open into the corridor, you've now poisoned that entire corridor. So as important as your fire alarm and your sprinkler system is, it's not a fail-safe. It'll certainly alert you to a fire. It'll control a fire until guys like Tim get there. Sometimes it'll extinguish depending on what's burning. But it's designed to hold that at bay until our people can get there and mitigate the situation to lessen the damage. Fire alarm systems and your sprinkler systems, your proactive systems, we need an annual inspection. The due diligence is on the Condo Association because they basically manage the building on your behalf. They've been very good throughout the city getting a technician in annually to do that work, to make sure that these systems work as designed. In the fire bylaw that we just had passed through council last fall, I've got a special section in there that deals with technicians, licensed technicians. We were finding the vast majority of technicians that either service your extinguishers, your fire alarm system, or your sprinkler system are top notch, but we're finding the typical smaller mom and pop operations sliding in, to the city, especially when the city was very busy with building, underbidding qualified people, doing lousy work and leaving. That's just not the way to do it because your system's not working as designed. We also have within the bylaw, and Tim can attest to this, how many red twos or monitoring alarms that they respond to daily. And it's about 41% of all of the calls they respond to daily. If you broke it down to days, that means a fire alarm system is activated for whatever reason, and it's been determined it's failed for whatever reason, be it somebody broke a head off, the sprinkler head froze, the alarm system's not working. So we've got, starting July 1st, we've got a system. What we want by this, I don't want to make a dime for the department. What we want is these fire alarm systems to work and sprinkler systems to work as designed. If they're not working as designed, they're not protecting you. So again, it's not overly punitive. We give any building the first one annually free. It allows the building owners to fix the system. If you get a second, that's when the dollar clock starts, and a third, and it resets every year. We've been we don't want to make this a punitive thing. We want you to fix the system and make sure it operates to protect everybody that lives in this building. And that's the basis of why we go out and do inspections. Again, you're in a very safe building. It's built to code. Fire separations are there to ensure that if you do have a fire, and unfortunately people have fires, it could be in this amenities room, but with that main door closed to the hallway, if it was pinned open when this was unoccupied, you would poison that hallway with heat and smoke, and thus making it very difficult for people to get out. And guys like Tim have to work extra hard to make sure that we can extract people if they're in peril. So that's just a little bit about your systems and the building itself. I don't know how most condo associations have their own bylaws with respect to what is allowed. We have a lot of issues with, you don't want such a sterile building that it looks like an institution, and people are always asking what they can hang in the halls and on the doors and what they can't. We tried and come up with a balance. We don't want anything flammable or combustible in your egress corridors or hallways. I know we have a lot of issues at Christmas. People want to put up their wreath or whatever, and we got to pull back on that, because if somebody, or for some reason that ignites, you're going to spread smoke through that hallway. Frame pictures and metal objects on your door or trinkets, there's no issue. It's when, and I've seen everything from bookshelves in the foyer to grandma's quilt hanging on somebody's suite door. It's great to honor your, and show that stuff, but the egress corridor is not the place to do it. So again, in an amenities room or another part of your condo, absolutely, but we need those corridors to remain safe in case there's a fire emergency. Another thing that's I don't find a lot are the inspectors. We don't allow propane of any amount other than the one trip green for your camping stove stored within your parking garage. We've seen a couple of 20-pounders, like those things can cause massive damage if they do explode. So we try and limit that stuff, and we just don't want it in there. Those green ones that you use for camping, absolutely. A couple or three, no problem. I should ask, everybody's got an amenity space in the parking garage to store your, what does that look like? Is it a walled thing or chicken wire or mesh? Or?
Walled thing.
Okay.
It's a walled thing, but no roof.
Yeah, so you should be able to see the sprinkler heads, and yeah, because I see a lot of people, they're closing that in for privacy, and now the sprinkler heads won't work as designed. So again, it's up to the condo association to kind of marshal that sort of thing, and make sure that those heads will work as designed. And it's just little things. People they're not doing it maliciously, they just don't know. Any questions so far before I ramble on?
So you're saying we shouldn't hang wreaths in the wall?
Pardon?
You're saying we shouldn't hang wreaths in the wall?
I know it's everywhere. I know, and it's up to the condo board. If the inspector came to do an inspection of the building, he'd order them. The code says nothing combustible in the hallways. It's the same thing as schools. We allow 10% of combustible material by every classroom, because if the kids can't display their crafts, you can't use the whole hallway like when you go to the Owl at Regina University. The thing is N10, and we're always chasing them down. Again, it's about balance. If you have something that you're going to put out there, and if it's got a flame resistance rating, and it'll tell, most stuff doesn't. Again, I've got it in the bylaw, combustible wreaths, boughs, or live trees that are not rooted. You can't have them in your egress corridors, your foyers to exit. They need to remain clear of anything like that because they can really be an issue. So again, very minimal amounts. I'd probably turn a bit of a blind eye, but you know, it gets, if you allow a little bit, pretty soon the hallway's lined. So like again, frame pictures and stuff like that, there is no issue. But too much within the spaces around the doors, and that's usually not a good thing. So, sorry. I don't make a lot of friends in my job, unfortunately, but
What about doormats?
they're not supposed to be there either because they're a trip hazard. In a fire situation, smoke development, I know we're really getting to be institutionalized here. If you've got an alcove or recess, I don't know how your doors are configured, where it could be inset from the main path of travel, I wouldn't have a problem, but the code doesn't want anything that can cause a trip should the hallway become obscured with smoke, or the lights go off and your emergency backup does whatever. Again, it's up to the condo board within reason. Like, we're not ogres and we're not going to shut everybody down for everything, but it's about balance. You know, we've had lots of complaints about floor mats, and there's 7 pairs of shoes and then another pair in front, and pretty soon it's restricted the width of the egress corridor. So yeah, anyway, it's just about balance, and we'll just let the folks that live here manage that themselves. Unless there's a complaint, then we have to act. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. What's the leading cause of fire within this city?
Candles.
No, but it's a cause, and we'll talk about that.
Stoves.
Cooking. It's a leading cause of fire, unintentional cooking in this city, in this province, in this country, and North America wide. It's the same stat everywhere you go. We have multiple, every year within this city, people leave the kitchen only for a moment. Check on the kids, go to the washroom, do whatever. Pot on the stove. If you're going to leave the kitchen, pot needs to be turned off, especially with the oils. You're not really in peril with boiling water, but you don't want to boil a pan dry, so we just recommend folks stay in the kitchen. Keep a lid and a pair of oven mitts close. If you have an issue, turn the stove off, it's safe, and slide the lid across, and all will be good. We've had people die trying to carry burning pots of oil out, trip and succumb. Not many, but I've done 2 in this city, investigated 2. Multiple scenes of damage. It doesn't take much. You got a kitchen, you basically write the house off. The insurance companies rarely would fix anything beyond a damaged kitchen and smoke development throughout. And the most important thing, you put people at risk, yourselves, and unintentional fires, and that's what the Regina Fire Department, we're here to serve and respond to anything, but the less fires our people have to respond to, the less risk they're put at as well, but they're glad to respond, and they do all the time. So, what's the leading cause of death caused by fire? Smoke or smoking?
No, smoke in the building.
Smoke is that's the leading, but the leading act, I guess, the leading unintentional act. What would that be? It causes the fatalities more than anything. Anybody know? Cigarettes or smoker's material? Yeah. Yeah. Another issue we have every year, more and more people tend to be smoking outside, even at home, than ever before, because you can't smoke anywhere else, basically. We're having more deck fires, and Tim can attest to that. It's the careless discarding of smoker's material. I've seen it in plastic milk jugs, in an ashtray on a table, and the wind blows it off, and between the deck it goes. We recommend a metal container with a little bit of sand and make sure the butt is crushed in. We have multiple a year. We probably lose 3 houses completely a year, and many more houses damaged. Starts on the deck. People are putting it in peat pots or flower pots. That's not dirt. That's peat moss. It could smolder for 7 to 8 hours because it's combustible, and it just glows and it moves around. If it gets to the side of the plastic or the wooden pot, away it goes, and it's sitting beside the vinyl-sided house, and then the attic is gone, or against the deck rail. And we really have a serious problem every year with people mishandling smokers' material, throwing butts out the window, especially when it's dry. We have grass fires along the ring road quite often. Again, if people would just take care. So, again, cooking, it's so easily preventable. Stay in the kitchen. And we have the same issue, not to the same extent, but every year we probably lose 3 or 4 attics because it goes up the side after the barbecue ignites your vinyl siding. People go, they heat their barbecue and they go in to get their, whatever they're cooking. If it's too close to your side of your house, up it goes again. Stay by the barbecue. We recommend at least 1 meter away from a combustible surface. I know you don't have that. What do you have up top here? Do you have natural gas for barbecues or propane, natural gas? Again, still, it's a heating device. And so I think it's your stucco-sided or brick? Both. So, try and keep it as far away from the wall within reason. I know you don't have a lot of deck space. I was looking when I came in, but again, too much combustible material on the deck isn't a good thing either. So again, it's just a housekeeping thing, and be vigilant, and that is a good preventative point. Has anybody had the misfortune of having a fire in their lives anywhere? No, that's good. Usually there's 1 or 2, sometimes not. Yeah.
I had a brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a hotel, and in a hotel on a fire.
Yeah. A lot of small town. I used to be a provincial investigator for the province, so most of my work was outside of the big cities. So I'd investigate anywhere, usually except the big cities, because the big cities have their own investigation folks. And small town Saskatchewan is really paining, especially with the downturn, especially if you lose a school or a hotel or a grocery store, something that keeps people close to these small towns. You'll see that town fade pretty quickly. And again, there's a provincial initiative to keep people safe as they can, but again, there's so many people, it never happened to me. Well, it happens to somebody because Tim's a busy guy. Again, and it happens just that quickly. Out of the probably 1,800 fires I've investigated in my career with the province and now with Regina Fire, I've investigated out of those 1,400 or 1,500 or more 20 fatalities, or 120 fatalities out of all those I've personally investigated, and it's senseless. And I'm not going to get into that, but 80% of those could have been prevented if people's smoke alarms operated. That's the key. It's the most important device you have in your dwelling, and because you've got state-of-the-art systems here and they're tested, it goes a long way. You talked about what you made mention of smoke. Smoke is the killer. Fire's rarely killer. Very few people die from the effects of flame. They die from the effects of smoke. The fire is just a catalyst. And
So if you walk into
does a smoke alarm in your suite trip the fire alarm system?
I think they're separate.
They are. And they do that on purpose because every time somebody burned toast, everybody be standing out in their house coat, in the parking lot. So again, the fire alarm system, it has smoke detectors in the hallway. You've got smoke alarms in your suite. If you open the door to your suite or you see smoke or smell smoke, you close the door to keep the fire where it is and pull a pull station. And if you've got a phone on, you call 911. That fire alarm is monitored as it goes to a monitoring company who then alerts city police, who alerts us, but the sooner we can get that call, the better. So what we want to do is compartmentize. Let's say you're walking down the hallway here and you see smoke puffing out of the door here. There's nobody in here. It's whatever time of the day. Don't even attempt to open the door. Something's not right, and you could be overcome if you just leave the door closed and pull a pull station, and away we go. It's the safest way. Any questions? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
The sprinkler system, does that, if the fire alarm goes off in the building, do the sprinklers everywhere go off?
No.
Or just do that?
Nope, the sprinklers may never go off.
Oh,
The sprinklers, there's a little red bulb in there, and that is heat sensitive. Heat has to break that bulb to allow that to flow. So let's say you had something smoking in that fireplace, if it was electric and it wasn't emitting enough smoke, to set off the smoke detector and there's no heat, the sprinklers only act upon heat. And only that one would go off, and as the fire builds, if that one can't control it, that one would go off, and then that one. So as heat grows and if they can't control it, then more of them operate. So the fire alarm system will not set off your sprinkler system. And it's designed that way, or else you'd flood a building a lot. So another thing we find with frozen smoke or sprinkler heads, and with exit doors, sometimes the ground shifts and the door doesn't close correctly, especially in our temperatures. Even if it's open a crack or it's not insulated correctly, that vestibule area gets cold, and then sometimes it'll freeze ahead. The guys respond to a lot of those things. So what do we do now? So we've gone through this stuff, and we're not going to have a fire, right? But if we ever did have a fire, what are you going to do to remain safe? Are you going to swing that hallway door open right away, or what would your first plan of attack be?
Touch the door.
Touch the door, yeah. You're not sure if that hallway is I call it hostile with heat and smoke. Check it, just like we teach our young people, just like Tim and the guys do all the time, because when you learn young, you'll take that with you, I hope. They never taught me that. I know how to line up behind the teacher on a fire drill, but that was about it. Went you back in those days. So yes, you want to make sure that that hallway is sterile or not compromised. Touch your door, open it a little bit. If it looks okay, we'd like you to get out. In a lot of buildings like this, and especially seniors independent living, there's a lot of people with physical and cognitive immobilities as far as wheelchairs, walkers, canes, sometimes cognitive issues. And they always ask us, should we remain in our suites? If the hallway is hostile or you can't get to that hallway, and we don't want you to stop in the hallway, we want you into the exit stair shaft and preferably out the door. If we jam too many folks in the hallway, in the exit stairwell, he's coming up the stairs with the rest of the folks, and we've got all kinds of people. They may not be able to traverse stairs because of physical impairments. So if you can't get out and the hallway's hostile, of course you're going to keep your door closed. If you don't think you can get out due to a physical impairment, we don't want you in the hallway ever. You're either in your suite or at the very least in the exit stairs shaft, and preferably down the stairs and out to your meeting place. And it just stands to reason. You've got 20-minute fire-rated doors on every one of your condo. It'll never burn through in the time it takes the fire department to get here and mitigate, and your sprinkler system may in fact put the fire out. That suite door would withstand probably 40 minutes of direct flame. Because I've taught fire investigation for many years to the international standard. We burnt a lot of buildings and did a lot of tests. That door is designed, and that's why it has to self-close and latch. We also want people that if you have to leave in an emergency, a fire emergency, leave your suite door, your condo door unlocked. It takes less time for our operations folks to, rather than force doors and break doors, it takes time. Do you have any sort of a fire warden system at all?
Not yet. No.
Not yet, yeah. And certainly you should have a fire safety plan, and if not yet, certainly develop one. I'll review it for clarity and make recommendations. It's, and you don't have to put within the plan when you test your sprinkler system and your alarm system. The fire safety plan are for the residents in case of an emergency. What do you do? Show the exit routes, make sure everybody is aware. Of course, you live here, this is your home, you know where things are. It's not a transient place like a hotel where people are coming and going. It's as important here, but you're not transient. You live here, you know. So I'm glad to look at that when Tim develops it.
Taking notes.
So yeah, leave your doors unlocked. Nobody's going to come in here and rob you because the building's going to be held under our authority until it's safe to return. Then we'll turn it back over to the condo association or somebody that's in charge if it's safe to go back in. If it's not safe to go back in, we will secure as many doors as we can and then secure the building until we investigate it wherever it is in the building. And let's hope that never happens, but again, if you can leave your door open, are unlocked, not open. A lot of people say, well, I've got a balcony, should I not be going out there first? If the fire's in your suite, you shouldn't be in there, but if the fire's in the hallway or coming down that corridor, you're safe. We ask you to roll up a wet towel, place it at the bottom of the door to keep, in case that hallway gets charged with smoke before they can come and put it out, to keep smoke from entering your suite or your condo. You're safe in there. You'll always have a balcony, but given the weather that we have in the wintertime, I wouldn't want to be standing out there if I didn't have to. But you're absolutely safe in your condo. The door's not going to burn through before we mitigate that, our operations people. So a lot of people take time in an emergency. Of course, it's a bit of a panic. We try to teach, don't panic, but people are scared, let's face it. If you need to evacuate, the alarms are going off and you just need to go. We really recommend that people don't go in and look for this and pick up that picture and look for that. Anything that's important to you, I mean, for your health and welfare, your meds, walkers, wheelchairs, canes, hearing aids, your money, your phone, try and keep it where it's close at hand. I've done a number of investigations where people have gotten out safely and then went back in to retrieve something and never did come back. Because it doesn't take long. A working fire in this room, if you didn't have any fire safety devices and this was your bedroom and you had a working smoke alarm and that's it, if you're not impaired by anything and you react immediately to that smoke alarm, you've only got a 50% chance of survival in the first minute and a half. And that's based on statistics. You don't have a lot of time. Still, a minute and a half is enough time for you if you're cognizant, you're ready to go. I say get your nose on the floor like a bloodhound if there's smoke in the area and move yourself out, close the door behind you to try and keep the fire in one area, because we don't want that smoke migrating out into the hallways and everywhere else. Now it's trapped other people as we go. So it's the best course of action. Again, if that fire's in your condo, the sprinklers are going to activate and maybe suppress it or at least control it. It'll never burn through that 20-minute door into the hallway. As long as what we don't want, your condo doors self-close, or
They're supposed to, yeah.
do they?
They're all fitted with devices that will self-close.
Yeah.
They're all spring-loaded.
Yeah, they should.
If anybody's condo doors aren't closing, you need to get a hold of Darcy or Lloyd then.
Yeah, because it's critical, because if there's a fire in that condo and people evacuate and that door is open, that whole corridor is going to be uninhabitable. I've done many fire investigations like that where people panic and leave the door open where it's not a self-closing door, and fires destroyed virtually that whole area. Any other questions, Tim? You had some other things?
Yeah. So the ownership is going to be changing. I was wondering if you could check and see if there's any outstanding deficiencies or if it's overdue for an inspection.
Yeah, I'll do that for sure. I'll write it down. So this is 1700.
Yep.
I know we've been through a while ago. I know they tried to occupy, if I can vaguely recall, a floor, and they were still working, but the fire alarm system wasn't quite in play yet. They always try to, when they're selling, they want to occupy, of course, and I think we had some orders written, but I'll check our records, see when we were here last, and if there's anything outstanding.
Yeah.
And away we go. So absolutely.
I don't know what your take is on talking to people about fire extinguishers. I think if they're comfortable using them, then you can be educated on how to do so.
Exactly, and when I do speak, and I didn't, and thanks for reminding me, the last thing I want anybody to do is if they choose to use an extinguisher, they're called first aid fire extinguisher. They're to put out very small fires, and they're there to get you if you're trapped between the exit door and the fire. That's basically what they're for. They don't they don't take long to discharge, so you have to be very accurate. So what I ask people to do, before you use them, take some time to read the instructions, their pictograms and how to sweep and all of this. Or I know a lot of industry take courses and whatever. I'm not saying you need to go out and take a course, but we don't want a person reacting to a fire extinguisher and panic and discharge it incorrectly, and now they're trapped. If the fire appears too big, then close the door. If the fire can be put out, they're a very useful tool, but they're rated, how they're rated is in the hands of an expert. That's how they rate them. They don't rate them in the hands of a novice. So it'll say, you've got 15 seconds of discharge here. They have a guy like him in a testing area, finding out how quickly a professional can put that fire out. It's a lot different when you hand it to a civilian. But I'm not scaring you away from it, but if you're going to use it, read first and use it wisely in a small garbage can style fire. If you come in here and the sofa's ablaze, you might as well forget it. Close the door. The sprinkler system will help you.
Maybe that's something we can have, because I've used one at South Carl. We had courses on using them with gasoline and
Yeah.
wood burning or whatever.
Yeah,
And
just
it is
combustible
quite,
materials.
you know, like
It's
on the-
challenging.
Yeah, it is. Especially the gasoline ones.
Yeah,
Like,
they
it
are.
really takes a while to put it out.
And you shouldn't have that problem here, I hope. You wouldn't, but never say never.
Yeah.
But again, any ordinary combustibles, like I say, the sprinkler system will control it, and sometimes somebody will trip upon something in an office environment or somewhere where there's a garbage can and something that's easily extinguished with a dry chemical extinguisher. Rather than, because the sooner you get it out, if it's safe to do so, the less smoke damage you receive in your unit or this building or this. So absolutely.
There's lots of them in the building, like
Yeah.
lots down the hallway and then in the parking garage too. They're hidden behind
They're in
yellow,
behind the posts.
yellow posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you don't start out too close. Start out like 8 to 10 feet away and pull the pin and aim at the base of the fire, squeeze and sweep and move in. Don't start out too close,
Yeah.
like say go pot of oil and hit it and it bursts up.
Yeah,
in the face.
that's why I always say,
Something like that.
if you got oil, you're cooking with oil, a lot of people do, have a lid and a pair of oven mitts. If you can safely get to turn this burner off or just slide the lid across with your oven mitts, that fire will go out. The last thing we want, like Tim says, is ejecting an extinguisher, because that powder's under pressure, and if you get too close to that burning oil, it'll eject that burning oil out over everything, including
Don't
use.
use water.
And then don't use water either, no, don't use water. So we also ask that anything that you buy that's electrical be listed. If you look on the back, there'll be a sticker, ULC or CAN ULC or one of the listing agencies. So much of the stuff is coming across from China and you won't know this, with forged stickers. And when we find an appliance that fails, if there's anything left to check or see, we'll see. And I've reached out to CAN ULC many times, and it's been a fraudulent sticker. You as a consumer wouldn't know. So buy reputable appliances. And I love the dollar store for their candy aisle, but don't buy any electrical of anything at the dollar store. Don't. Because that's overstock, or it could be a sea can full of who knows what that is not listed for use in this country, and we have fires. So, like I say, they got an awesome candy aisle and everything else, but don't buy anything electric. I know. My granddaughter loves it. That's about all I have, folks. If you have any questions, have at it. I've covered pretty much everything, I think.